Back in my elementary and middle school days, my friends A and B and I were country bumpkins, ignorant to the ways of the world, acting foolish and leading destructive lives every day. A and I were completely abandoned by our families, but B's mother was always caring for him. She carried this strict attitude, but she was always doing various things for B. B and his mother had a huge argument when he was in his 3rd year of middle school. He didn't say what it was about, but it appeared to have injured his mother mentally severely. Observing how heartbreakingly wounded she was, B's father returned. Without acknowledging B, he calmly approached his wife. Seeing her tattered clothing, ruined hair, and lifeless eyes that stared blankly at the floor, he said to B. B's father said, "So you've become a person who tramples on others. Can't you see how much your mother cares for you?" His father said this without looking at B, but holding his wife tightly. B said, "Shut up. Do you want me to kill you, huh?" B was not interested in the conversation at all, but his father continued speaking calmly, ignoring B's interruption. B's father spoke. "Do you think you have nothing to be afraid of?" B replied, "If I do, let me see it then." After pausing for a moment, his father responded. B's father said, "You are my son. I understand how much your mother worries about you. But if the only thing you can do for your mother is to trample her like this, I have to say something to you. This is not a father speaking, but a human being. Let me first say clearly, the reason I'm talking about this is that I am ready even if you die. If you want to proceed, listen." Upon hearing these words, though B felt as if there was a fierce resolve like an aura emanating from his father, he challenged. "Go on and talk." B's father said, "You know there is a place in the forest where you're not allowed to enter. Go in there and keep moving forward. You'll know what I mean when you reach there. Try and get in trouble there if you can." The forest his father referred to was at the foot of a small mountain near where we lived, almost like a sea of trees. There were normally accessible areas, but also there were prohibited areas. For example, imagine a square with a small circle inside it, and you aren't allowed to enter that circle. There were fences about 2 meters high surrounding it, which had thick ropes, barbed wire entangled around it, white paper, like personal streamer, connected in a sequence, and countless big and small bells. The fence was distorted due to its partiality, and it was anything but normal. Also, on certain days, I saw some shrine maidens gathering at the entrance, but I didn't know what they were doing, because the whole area would be restricted to entry on those days. Several rumors were circulating. The most widespread one was that there was a brainwashing facility of a cult group. Because it was a tedious journey, even to reach the spot, there were very few accounts of people going beyond it. Without waiting for B's response, his father took his wife upstairs. B left his house straight away, met A and me at the meeting spot, and told us the story. I said, "Your father going that far must be a big deal." I said, "Rumors said it was a cult's hideout, right? He meant you could get caught and brainwashed there. I mean, it's scary, but what are you gonna do? Are you going?" B said, "Of course I'm going. It's just another bluff from my father." So, intrigued by the whole situation, A and I decided to accompany B to visit the place. We prepared various tools and arrived at the location a little past midnight in high spirits. We entered the forest, shining a flashlight in front of us. It was an easy passage, and because we always wore Jika-tabi shoes, it was easy to walk. However, it took nearly 40 minutes to get to the problem point. But within 5 minutes of entering, something strange started happening. As soon as we started walking in, we started to hear a sound from afar. The silence of the night emphasized the sound. B noticed it first. "Hey, do you hear something?" When we listened carefully at B's words, we could indeed hear it. The rustle of dragging leaves and the breaking of branches. It was faint and far away. It wasn't very scary, probably because it was faint and coming from afar. We thought there might be an animal before we could think about it, so we went ahead without worrying. We stopped worrying about it when we thought it was an animal. But about 20 minutes later, B noticed something again and stopped me and A. "A, can you walk a little alone?" "A, why? Just go quickly." I walked ahead puzzled and then came back to us. Looking at this, B had a thoughtful expression. "Hey, what is it?" "Me explain it." When we said so, B told us to be quiet and listen carefully. Then he walked ahead alone and came back to us. After repeating this 2 or 3 times, we finally realized The faint sound we were hearing from afar was in sync with us. The sounds would start walking when we started, and stop when we stopped. It was as if they knew what we were doing. We could not help but feel chilly. There was no light except for what we carried. The moon was out, but it was mostly meaningless because it was blocked by the trees. It's not surprising that they know where we are because we have flashlights. But still, even we who are walking together had to strain our eyes to check each other in the darkness. What the hell were they doing in the dark without any light? Why were they moving like us? This is ridiculous. Is someone tailing us? I don't feel like we're being approached. They've been in the same position from the start. As I said, the distance between us and that sound did not change at all in the 20 minutes from when we entered the forest until now. They were not getting closer or farther away. They maintained the same distance from start to finish. Are we being watched? It feels like it. If it's a cult, they might have some strange device. The sound suggested that it was not multiple people, but one person sticking to us. After stopping for a while and thinking, we decided it would be dangerous to recklessly try to find out who it was. We decided to move ahead cautiously. Despite being followed by the sound, when we finally saw the fence, we didn't care about the sound anymore because the state of the fence was cryptic. It was our first time seeing it, and it was beyond our imagination. Also, until then, we had never thought that something not realistic might be ahead of us. And it might be really dangerous. Was it a haunted place in that sense? It was the first time since we entered the forest that we thought we might be in a dangerous place. Hey, are we supposed to break this and go in? Anyone can see this is not normal. Shut up! Don't be scared of something like this. Intimidated by the abnormal state of the fence, A and I were yelled at by B, who began to destroy the fence with the various tools he had brought. The multiple ringing bells were louder than the sound of destruction. However, the tools we brought were too poor because we hadn't imagined this far. Or rather, it was unnaturally strong. It didn't budge at all, as if it was made of some special material. Eventually, the only option was to climb over it, but thanks to the rope, it was relatively easy to climb. However, as soon as I crossed the fence, I felt a strong discomfort. I felt a suffocating sense of being trapped, like being in a cage. It seemed that A and B felt the same and hesitated to step forward. But once we crossed the fence, there was no choice but to go on. As soon as we started walking towards the interior, the three of us noticed something. The sound that had been following us had abruptly stopped once we'd crossed the fence. Honestly, we didn't care about that anymore because the atmosphere felt so unpleasant, but A's next words made us feel even more uncomfortable. Maybe that guy was always here, wasn't he? There's no entrance in this fence, so maybe he couldn't get closer. There's no way. The place where we noticed the movement of the sound isn't even visible from here. How could it tell what we were doing at the entrance? Naturally, B is right. The entrance of the forest and the restricted area are quite far apart. However, since we imagined it might be something from another reality, we couldn't deny A's words in our heads. While A and I, who started feeling dangerous after seeing the fence, were being scorned, B was unexpectedly bullish. I don't know if it's a ghost or anything, but if you're right, isn't it incapable of getting out of this fence? It's not a big deal. With that said, he advanced further into the forest. About 20 or 30 minutes after crossing the fence, when we could start to see the fence on the other side faintly, we found something strange. A specific 6 trees were tied with a Shimenawa rope, and they were bound by 6 ropes to form a hexagonal space. There was also a formal shied paper hand in different patterns from the ones on the fence. In the center, there was something like a donation box set in solitude. The second we saw it, the three of us were speechless. In particular, A and I felt that something seriously dangerous was happening. Even the silly us knew to some extent that the Shimenawa was used in normal contexts and for what purpose. In that sense, the reason for restricting access here is undoubtedly because of the spectacle in front of us. We have finally come where we were going. This is probably what your dad was talking about. It's clearly dangerous to mess with this anyway. However, B did not change his bullish posture. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Anyway, let's check out the box. There might be treasure in it. B ducked under the rope and went into the hexagon, heading towards the box. A and I were more worried about what B might do than the box, but we followed B. Due to being left outdoors and damaged by rain, the box was rusty. The top part is covered and you can see inside through a net. However, there is another board under the lid and we can't see it after all. Furthermore, something crazy was written on the box with chalk or something. I think it probably has implications like a family crest, but on each side, front, back, left, right, multiple crest-like things are written, and all of them are different. There was not a single one that was duplicated.